Chapter 1. The woman who wouldn't run the call came through dispatch at 3:41 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. Residential structure fire. Fully involved smoke visible 2 blocks away. By the time Engine 47 rolled onto Mapleton Drive, flames were already eating through the roof of a single-family home. Black smoke poured from every window, the kind of fire that doesn't start by accident. I'm Captain Dean Mitchell. I've been running calls like this for 18 years, but this one was different, not because of the fire itself. The fire was textbook, accelerant-fed, multiple points of origin, deliberate. An arson investigator's dream and a homeowner's nightmare. No. This was different because of the woman standing on the front lawn. She was maybe 33, dark hair pulled back, wearing jeans and a sweater that looked like she'd thrown it on in a hurry. She wasn't panicking, wasn't crying, wasn't screaming for help or asking us to save her belongings. She was just standing there, calm, holding something, a metal keycard in one hand, a burned leather journal in the other, and she was staring at the fire like it was an old friend she'd been expecting. "Ma'am," I called out as I approached. "I'm Captain Mitchell. You need to move back from the structure." She didn't move. Behind her, 3 men in dark suits were standing near an unmarked black sedan, federal agents maybe, or something that looked close enough to it. One of them stepped forward, reaching for her arm. "She's in federal custody," he said, his voice flat. No emotion. "We'll take it from here." I stepped between them. "She's not going anywhere until my paramedics clear her," I said. "This is an active fire scene. You don't have jurisdiction here." The agent's jaw tightened, but he didn't push it. I turned back to the woman. Her eyes met mine. Clear focused. Not in shock, despite what logic would suggest. "Ma'am," I said again, softer this time. "Are you injured? Is anyone else inside?" She shook her head slowly. "No one's inside," she said. Her voice was steady. Too steady. "They already got what they came for." "Who did?" She glanced at the agents behind me, then back at the fire. "The people who wanted to erase me." My crew was already pulling lines, setting up, preparing to knock down the fire, but something about this woman held me in place. "What's your name?" I asked. "Alyssa Rowan." "Alyssa, do you know how this fire started?" She looked down at the journal in her hand. The edges were charred, blackened, like she'd pulled it from the flames herself. "Yes," she said quietly. "I know exactly how it started." The lead agent stepped forward again, more forceful this time. "Captain Mitchell, we appreciate your concern, but Ms. Rowan is wanted in connection with a federal investigation. We need to take her into custody now." I looked at him, then at her. She wasn't resisting, wasn't trying to run. But something in her eyes told me that if these men took her, I'd never see her again, and neither would anyone else. "Give me 5 minutes, I said to the agent. "Let her give a statement about the fire, then she's yours." He hesitated, glanced at his partners, then nodded once. 5 minutes. I turned back to Alyssa. "Talk to me," I said. "What happened here?" She looked at the burning house, then at me. "You want to know why I'm not afraid of dying in that fire, Captain Mitchell?" I nodded. "Because everything I thought I was already burned down this morning," she said. And by noon, I understood that my entire life was a lie. She took a breath, and then she told me everything.
"Captain Mitchell, this morning started at 5:02 a.m., she said. "That's when my neighbor knocked on my door and told me not to go to work." Her voice was calm, measured, like someone who'd crossed a line and couldn't go back. That's when this fire really started. It was still dark outside when I heard the pounding on my front door. I looked at the clock. 5:02 a.m. No one knocks at that hour unless something is wrong. I pulled on my sweatshirt and went to the door, heart pounding in my chest. When I opened it, my next-door neighbor, Gabriel Stone, stood there. His face was pale, his breathing uneven, like he'd run all the way over. "Don't go to work today," he said. His voice was low, urgent. "Stay home. Just trust me." I stared at him in confusion. Gabriel was quiet, polite, the kind of neighbor who kept to himself and rarely spoke more than a few words in passing. I barely knew anything about him other than the fact that he'd moved into the neighborhood a year ago and seemed to prefer solitude. Seeing him like this, terrified, felt wrong. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Did something happen?" He shook his head slowly, but his eyes were sharp with warning. "I can't explain right now," he said. "Just promise me you won't leave the house today. Not for any reason." Everything felt unreal in that moment. The cold morning air, the pink streak of sunrise just beginning on the horizon. And my neighbor, usually emotionless, now looking like a man about to fall apart. "Gabriel," I said slowly, "you're scaring me. Why shouldn't I go?" He hesitated. Then his voice dropped into a whisper. "You'll understand by noon." Before I could ask anything else, he stepped back, glanced around the neighborhood as if someone might be watching us, and walked quickly back to his house. He didn't look back. I stood there in silence, my hand still on the doorknob, my mind racing. A rational part of me wanted to dismiss it as paranoia. Maybe he was confused. Maybe he was having some kind of breakdown. But another part of me, the part that had always trusted my instincts, told me not to ignore this. And there was one more reason I couldn't just shrug it off. 3 months ago, I lost my father. His death was sudden. Officially, it was listed as a stroke. But in the days before it happened, he kept trying to talk to me about something important, something he needed to show me. When I pressed him, he would only say, "It's about our family. It's time you knew." Then, before we ever had that conversation, he was gone. Since then, strange things had been happening around me. A car parked near my driveway for hours with tinted windows. My phone ringing from blocked numbers with no one speaking on the other end. My younger sister Sophie, who works overseas, calling to ask if I had noticed anyone new in the area. No one had said anything directly, but I had felt it. Something was moving in my life, quietly, intentionally. And whatever it wasn't random. My name is Alyssa Rowan. I'm 33 years old. I'm a financial analyst at Henning & Cole Investments and someone who has never missed a day of work unless I was sick. I live alone in the house I inherited from my grandmother. It's a quiet life, structured, predictable, until today. I made a choice in that moment, not out of fear, but out of logic. If Gabriel was wrong, I would simply take a personal day. If he was right, I might be saving my life without even knowing it. I texted my manager telling her I was unable to come in due to a personal emergency. Then I waited. The hours crawled by. Every noise in my house seemed louder than usual. The ticking clock in the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator. Even the wind against the window sounded like someone trying to speak through the walls. By 11:30 a.m., I started to feel foolish. Nothing had happened. Gabriel hadn't returned. Maybe I was overreacting. Then my phone rang, an unknown number. I answered, expecting maybe my manager or a spam call. Instead, I heard a calm, authoritative voice say, "Ma'am, this is Officer Taylor with the County Police Department. Are you aware of a critical incident that occurred at your workplace this morning?" My breath caught. "What incident?" The officer exhaled. His tone shifted. "There was a violent attack at your building," he said. "Several employees were injured. We have reason to believe you were present." My entire body went cold. "That's impossible," I said. "I wasn't there." Silence. Then the officer replied, "We have footage of your car arriving at 8:02 a.m. Your work ID was used to enter the building, and security reports say you were last seen on the 3rd floor before the attack." My knees weakened. I gripped the edge of the table to stay upright. Someone had used my identity. Someone wanted me to be there. And someone wanted the world to believe I was. "Ms. Rowan," the officer continued, his voice staying calm but laced with something beneath it. Urgency, mixed with caution. "Your coworkers reported seeing you enter the building this morning. Security logs show your keycard was used at 8:02 a.m. We have time-stamped footage of your vehicle pulling into the parking garage." I pressed the phone closer to my ear, my voice unsteady. "That's not possible," I said. "I've been home all morning. I didn't go to work today." There was a pause. Then he asked a question that sent a chill through my body. "Can anyone verify that?" I looked around my empty living room. The silence felt heavy, accusatory. "No," I whispered. "I live alone." The officer's tone changed, became more formal. Ms. Rowan, at approximately 11:47 a.m., an emergency alert was triggered on the 3rd floor of your building. A coordinated attack took place. You were reported missing from the scene. We are required to locate you for your safety and for questioning. My grip tightened on the phone. Questioning? I asked. Why would I be questioned? There was a longer pause this time, as if he was choosing his words carefully. Evidence was found in the building, he said. Items belonging to you were recovered near the scene of the incident. My mind went blank. Items belonging to me. That's when I remembered Gabriel. His pale face, his shaking hands. Don't go to work today. Someone had been planning this. And I had been part of that plan, either as a victim or as the person to blame. I'm telling you, I said, trying to remain calm. I wasn't there. Someone must have cloned my keycard, or... Then a sudden thought hit me so hard I could barely speak. My car, I said. Did you see who got out of the car in that footage? The officer responded quietly. The footage is corrupted. We don't see the face, only the vehicle entering, with your plates clearly visible. My pulse quickened. Whoever did this had access to my car, or an identical vehicle. My identity hadn't just been stolen, it had been replaced. I glanced out the window, my heart racing. Was I being watched? Was someone waiting for me to panic and make the wrong move? Before I could ask more questions, the officer said, "Units will be arriving at your address shortly. Please do not leave the premises." My instincts went into overdrive. If Gabriel told me not to go to work and someone impersonated me, then police showing up might not be coming for my safety. They might be coming to take me. As soon as the call ended, I closed all the blinds and locked every door. My breathing was shallow. My mind raced back to every strange moment over the past few weeks. A man in a suit watching me from his car down the street. Emails from unknown senders asking if I would be in the office Tuesday. The sense that someone had gone through my belongings when I wasn't home. It wasn't paranoia. It had been preparation. Suddenly, there was a knock at my door, sharp, controlled. Not hesitant like a concerned neighbor, and not frantic like someone in danger. It was deliberate. I held my breath and stayed silent. Another knock. Then a voice. "Alyssa, it's Gabriel. Open the door. We need to talk." My chest tightened. I moved slowly toward the door but didn't open it. "How did you know the police would call me?" I asked through the wood. His voice came back low and steady. "Because they're not coming to help you," he said. "They're coming to place you under federal custody. You were never meant to wake up in your own bed this morning." My head spun. "What are you talking about?" "They staged the incident to eliminate everyone in that building," he said, "and you were supposed to be there, not as a victim, but as the one they would blame." He paused. "And now they need you alive long enough to confess to something you didn't do." A cold realization washed over me. Whoever did this didn't just want me gone. They wanted me erased and rewritten as the villain. And whatever was going to happen at noon was never about the building. It was about me. I opened the door slowly, not because I trusted Gabriel completely, but because I trusted fear even less. His eyes were locked onto mine the moment the door cracked open, sharp, watchful, as if he was scanning for any signs we were not alone. Without asking permission, he stepped inside and closed the door behind him. He didn't waste time. "They're already on their way," he said. "You have minutes, maybe less, before they arrive and declare this house a crime scene." I crossed my arms, trying to steady my breathing. "Why?" I asked. "Why me? What's going on?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he went to the kitchen window and scanned the street. Then he lowered his voice. "Alyssa, I didn't move here by accident," he said. "I moved here to watch over you. Your father asked me to." The words hit me like a physical blow. I took a step back. My father? I said. No. My father was an accountant, a normal man. Gabriel turned to face me. Your father never worked in finance, he said. That was his cover. He was involved in a covert federal investigation for nearly 2 decades. And you were part of the reason. My mouth went dry. What does that mean? Gabriel reached inside his jacket and pulled out a small black envelope. Your father knew something like this would happen one day, he said. He left this for you. I hesitated before taking it. My fingers shook as I unfolded the paper inside. There was a handwritten note. Alyssa, if you are reading this, then what I feared has come to pass. You are not in danger because of anything you did. You are in danger because of who you are. There is more to your identity than you know. Gabriel will tell you the rest. Trust him, as you once trusted me. Do not surrender yourself. If they take you in, you will disappear. Dad. My knees weakened. My father had known. He had been trying to prepare me. All those times he said, "There are things you're better off not knowing yet." I thought he was being dramatic. Now those words came back to me like warnings from a ghost. Gabriel met my eyes. They're not just framing you, he said. They're reclaiming you. Reclaiming, I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. You were never just a civilian, Gabriel said. Your birth was not a coincidence. Your identity was constructed. Your father uncovered a classified biogenetic program, one tied to prominent families, influential bloodlines. When he refused to cooperate, he became a liability. His death was not natural. You were meant to be eliminated next, but they found a better use for you. My heart thundered. To use me as what? He took a step closer. As a scapegoat, he said. They needed a narrative that would justify the next phase of their plan. A false flag event, a manufactured tragedy, with you as the face of it all. Realization burned through me. Every strange moment, every shadow I had ignored, it had all been leading to this point. So all of this was staged to destroy my life, I said. Gabriel's gaze was firm. Not just your life, he said, your legitimacy. Once they declare you a national threat, they can seize every file connected to your father's investigation. They can erase the truth he died trying to protect. He reached into his coat again. This time he pulled out a metal keycard with a red emblem. This is access to a secure storage vault your father used, he said. It contains encrypted files that name the people behind this operation. If you don't reach that vault before they reach you, everything your father died for will be buried forever. I stared at the keycard in his hand, then back at the note from my father. My entire life I had believed I was ordinary, replaceable, invisible. Now I understood the truth. I was never invisible. I was never replaceable. I was watched because I was the last piece of a puzzle someone powerful didn't want solved. Suddenly, the distant wail of sirens began to echo across the neighborhood. Gabriel looked toward the front window. They're here, he said. But he wasn't afraid, and for the first time since this morning, neither was I, because fear had something I no longer carried. Doubt. I folded my father's letter and placed the keycard in my pocket. Then I looked at Gabriel and said, "Show me where we need to go." He nodded once. And in that moment, I crossed the line between the life I had always known and the truth I was born to face. We barely made it to Gabriel's SUV before the first unmarked black vehicles turned the corner. I heard them before I saw them, the low rumble of engines, multiple engines, moving fast. "Get in," Gabriel said. His voice was calm, too calm. I dove into the passenger seat. The door wasn't even closed when he gunned it. The tires screamed against asphalt. My seatbelt locked across my chest as we shot forward. I twisted in my seat, looking back through the rear window. 2 black sedans. No lights, no sirens, just pursuit. One of the men stepped out onto the street. He lifted something to his mouth, a radio. His face was blank, expressionless, like he was calling in a lost package. Not a person, property. The word echoed in my head as we sped down the residential street, past houses where people were waking up, making coffee, starting their normal Tuesday, while I was running from men who saw me as an asset to be recovered. Gabriel took a hard right onto the main road. My shoulder slammed against the door. The sirens had stopped. That's what made it worse. No flashing lights, no warning. Just black vehicles moving through morning traffic like shadows. "Are they following us?" I asked. Gabriel glanced in the rearview mirror. His jaw was set. "Yes." As we merged onto the highway, a strange calm settled over me. Not peace, not acceptance, but clarity. Fear had left my body. What remained was something sharper, colder. The adrenaline was still there, thrumming under my skin. But the panic was gone, replaced by a kind of crystalline focus. Something inside me had shifted, locked into place, like a key turning in a lock I didn't know existed. The highway stretched ahead, gray asphalt, white lines disappearing under our tires. For 20 minutes, neither of us spoke. I watched the landscape blur past. Trees, signs, other cars full of people living normal lives. My hands were steady now, folded in my lap. I didn't feel like Alyssa Rowan anymore. I felt like someone else, someone harder, someone who'd been sleeping inside me for 33 years. Finally, Gabriel broke the silence. "There's something you need to see," he said, "before we reach the vault." He reached into his jacket without taking his eyes off the road, pulled out a tablet, handed it to me. The screen glowed blue in the shadows of the car. I looked down, and I stopped breathing. My name, my full name, at the top of a file I'd never seen before. Rowan, Alyssa, subject 7B. Subject. Not patient, not person. Subject. My hands started shaking. The tablet trembled in my grip, making the words blur and refocus. Designation, Genomic asset. Asset. Like equipment, like property. I felt bile rising in my throat. The car suddenly felt too small, the air too thick. "Keep reading," Gabriel said quietly. I didn't want to. Every instinct screamed at me to throw the tablet out the window, to smash it against the dashboard, to pretend I'd never seen this. But I scrolled down. Gene expression chart. Blood markers not found in ordinary humans. I read it once, twice, 3 times. The words didn't change. Not found in ordinary humans. Meaning I wasn't ordinary. Meaning I was something else. My chest tightened. Each breath came shallow and quick. Subject exhibits complete immunity to multiple viral strains. I thought about every time I'd been around sick people. My coworkers calling in with the flu, with strep throat, with stomach bugs, while I stayed healthy. My father used to joke about it. "You've got an iron constitution, Lissa." It wasn't a joke. It was a feature. A designed feature. Potential regenerative blood properties. I looked at my hands. The same hands I'd had my entire life. Pale skin. A small scar on my left thumb from a kitchen knife when I was 12. But now, they felt foreign, like they belonged to someone else. Someone engineered. Subject approved for Phase 2 integration. "What does this mean?" I whispered. My voice sounded strange, like it was coming from underwater. Regenerative. Immune to what? Gabriel's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. The highway lights flashed past us. White, white, white. Hypnotic. "Everything," he said. The word hung in the air between us. Everything. I felt dizzy. The car seemed to tilt even though we were driving straight. 20 years ago, Gabriel said, his voice cutting through the hum of the engine. "Your father uncovered something." I was still staring at the tablet, at those words. Subject 7B. "He found a program," Gabriel continued, government-backed, hidden deep. They called it the Rowan Initiative. My reflection stared back at me from the dark window. I barely recognized the woman looking back. "What kind of program?" I asked. Gabriel's jaw tightened. I saw a muscle jump beneath his skin. "The kind that doesn't cure diseases," he said. "The kind that creates solutions." He paused. "Human solutions." The car hit a bump in the road. My stomach lurched. Or maybe that was just the truth settling into my bones. They were building a new class of people, Gabriel said. Immune to outbreaks, resistant to chemical weapons, biological attacks, radiation exposure, able to survive what would kill everyone else. The heat was on in the car, but I felt cold from the inside out. "And my father found this," I said slowly. "How?" "By accident," Gabriel said. "He was reviewing your medical records. You were 5 years old. Routine checkup, standard blood work. I remembered being 5. I remembered the doctor's office. White walls, the smell of antiseptic. A nurse with kind eyes who gave me a sticker. But something didn't match," Gabriel said. "Results that didn't align with the tests he'd ordered. Numbers that were off." Another car passed us. Headlights flared bright, then darkness. "He started digging," Gabriel said. "Found samples of your blood in federal labs he'd never heard of. Found reports analyzing your immune response. Notes about your exceptional markers. Your unique cellular regeneration." My hands were still shaking. I pressed them flat against my thighs to make them stop. "He realized they'd been studying you," Gabriel said. "Since birth, maybe before birth, without his knowledge, without consent." The word echoed in my head. Studying. Like I was bacteria in a petri dish. Like I was data to be collected. "He tried to pull you from the program," Gabriel said. "Demanded answers. Threatened to go public. To expose everything." The highway stretched on. Endless. "But you can't leave that kind of program," Gabriel said quietly. He glanced at me, just for a second. "Because you're not a participant," he said. His eyes met mine. "You're the product." The words hit me like a physical blow. I turned away, looked out the window, watched the trees blur into dark smears. Product. Not daughter, not person. Product. I thought about my childhood. Birthday parties, school pictures, learning to ride a bike. Had any of it been real? Or was it all just observation, a controlled environment for their experiment? "Your father leaked the program's existence to a federal oversight board," Gabriel said. "He gave them everything." He paused. "Documentation, lab results, names." I could hear the engine, the tires on asphalt, my own heartbeat. "The board ordered the program shut down," Gabriel continued. "Investigations were launched. People were going to be held accountable." A long pause, but that's not what happened. I already knew what came next. I could feel it in my bones. "Instead of ending it," Gabriel said, "they erased the investigation, classified everything, and everyone who knew." He didn't finish. "Have to." "My father," I whispered. Gabriel nodded. "They made it look like a stroke," he said, "but he was poisoned. With a neurotoxin developed by the same program, something that mimics natural causes, untraceable unless you know what to look for." I closed my eyes, saw my father's face. Not the pale, still face in the hospital bed, but the way he looked when I was young, smiling, laughing, pulling me into a hug. "His death was a message," Gabriel said. I opened my eyes. To who? To anyone else who might try to expose them. The city lights were starting to appear on the horizon. We were getting close. "They planned to retrieve you on your 33rd birthday," Gabriel said. "Standard protocol. Once subjects reach optimal maturity, they're brought into official custody. Given a choice, cooperate or disappear. My birthday was 3 weeks away. But something changed, Gabriel continued. Your profile was accelerated. Your blood test last month, routine physical for your job, it triggered a system alert. I remembered that appointment, sitting in the clinic, rolling up my sleeve, the needle prick. Just another normal day. Your markers had changed, Gabriel said. Evolved. You'd become even more valuable than they anticipated. He took a sharp turn off the highway. We were on a smaller road now, trees pressing in on both sides. That's why they staged the attack at your workplace today, he said. If you'd gone in, you would have been at the center of it, either killed in the chaos, he paused, or disappeared in the aftermath, declared missing, presumed dead, while they quietly recovered you. The pieces were falling into place, a puzzle I'd been living inside without knowing. And now? I asked. Now they'll frame you publicly, Gabriel said. Declare you a domestic threat, a person of interest in the attack. Then they can seize you under asset recovery protocol. I gripped the tablet tightly. But why frame me? I asked. Why not just take me quietly? Gabriel's expression was grim. Because they don't just want your body, he said. He turned onto what looked like a dirt access road. They want control over the narrative. If the world believes you're dangerous, no one will question what they do with you, where they take you, how they use you. The trees grew denser, the road rougher. We were far from civilization now. They want to erase who you are, Gabriel said, and replace you with what they need you to be. The SUV slowed as we approached what looked like an overgrown hill, but as we got closer, I saw it. A door, steel, built into the hillside, camouflaged but unmistakable. A bunker. Gabriel parked and turned off the engine. The silence was immediate, absolute. No highway noise, no other cars, just forest sounds. Wind through leaves, a bird calling somewhere in the distance. Gabriel turned to me. You have one last decision, Alyssa, he said. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. Once you walk inside, there is no going back. You will know everything. Your father died to protect the truth about what you are. And once you know it, they will never stop hunting you. I looked at the bunker door, then at my hands, still holding the tablet. Subject 7B. I'd been hunted my whole life without knowing. Watched, studied, controlled, all while thinking I was living a normal life. I've been hunted since the day I was born, I said quietly. I looked at Gabriel. It's time I found out what's inside me that they're so desperate to control. He nodded once. We got out of the SUV. I left the tablet on the seat. I didn't need it anymore. Everything that mattered was either in my pocket or about to be in my hands. The air was cold, crisp. It smelled like pine and damp earth. Gabriel approached the bunker door and entered a code on a hidden keypad. There was a heavy mechanical sound, locks disengaging. The door groaned open, slowly, like something waking up. I stood at the threshold, looking into darkness. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that the person who walked into this bunker would not be the same person who walked out. I took a breath and stepped inside. Chapter 3. The Vault. The door sealed shut behind us. Thud. The sound was final, like a tomb closing. It echoed down the corridor. Then silence. Complete silence. The kind that presses against your eardrums, that makes you hyper-aware of your own heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. I took a breath. The air was different in here. Cold, stale, like it hadn't been disturbed in years. It tasted metallic, like old coins, like the smell of blood but diluted, ancient. Emergency lighting flickered on, pale yellow, sickly. It cast everything in harsh shadows. Gabriel moved forward without hesitation. His footsteps echoed on concrete. Click, click, click. Confident, like he'd been here before. I followed, but my legs felt heavy. Each step required effort, like walking through water. The corridor stretched ahead of us, steel doors on either side, unmarked, identical, numbers stenciled in faded white paint. 07, 08, 09. I counted them as we passed, and then I felt it. A pull. Not physical, not logical, but undeniable. My skin prickled, the hair on my arms stood up. My body was reacting to this place. I'd never been here before, I was certain of that. But some part of me, some buried, forgotten part, recognized this hallway. The temperature, the smell, the echo of footsteps on concrete. It felt like memory, like déjà vu, but deeper, more primal. Like my cells remembered, even if my mind didn't. Gabriel, I whispered. My voice sounded too loud in the silence. He stopped, turned. His expression told me he'd been waiting for this. You feel it, he said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. My throat felt tight. Your father brought you here once, Gabriel said. He let that sit for a moment. When you were 3 years old. You won't consciously remember it. Another pause. But your body does. A chill ran down my spine. 3 years old. Before long-term memory solidifies. Before I could form conscious recollections. But the body remembers. The body always remembers. He wanted you to know where to come, Gabriel said, if something happened to him. He knew you'd find your way back. We continued walking. The corridor seemed to go on forever. My footsteps echoed, out of sync with Gabriel's. Click, 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 click. And then we stopped, in front of a door different from the others, larger, reinforced steel, with something engraved into the surface. I stepped closer. The emergency lighting cast shadows across the metal, making the engraving hard to see at first. But then I recognized it. My breath caught. It was a crest. A family crest. The Rowan family crest. My father had shown it to me once, when I was maybe 10 years old. We'd been at dinner, just the two of us. He'd drawn it on a napkin with a pen. Careful lines, precise. This belongs to our family, he'd said. It's very old, very important. He'd folded the napkin and put it in his pocket. Remember it, Lyssa, he'd said. I'd thought it was just a drawing, a piece of family history, something romantic but meaningless. Now I understood. It wasn't heritage. It was a key. Gabriel motioned to a small panel on the wall beside the door. A biometric scanner, palm print reader. Your DNA will open this vault, he said. I hesitated. How do you know? Because your father told me, he replied. He said the vault will only recognize his bloodline. He paused. And you were the last. The last. The weight of those words settled over me. I wasn't just unlocking a door. I was unlocking the final secret of my family's existence, the last thread connecting me to my father. I raised my hand. It was shaking. I pressed my palm against the scanner. It was cold. The glass surface felt like ice against my skin. A pulse of light ran along my hand, blue-white, following the lines of my palm, reading me, recognizing me. The vault emitted a soft chime, then a mechanical whir, locks disengaging, heavy, multiple. Clunk, clunk, clunk. The door rotated open, slowly, and cold air spilled out, colder than the corridor, preserved. It carried a scent with it. Old paper, leather, dust. And something else. Something I couldn't name but recognized instantly. Home. It smelled like my father, like his office, like the old books he kept on his shelves, like the jacket he used to wear. I felt tears prick my eyes. I blinked them back. Gabriel stepped aside. "After you," he said quietly. I crossed the threshold. The room was circular. Shelves lined the walls, floor to ceiling, all around. Black boxes, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, each labeled with numbers and codes I didn't understand. But at the center of the room was something different, a glass pedestal, waist-high, spotlit by a single overhead light that had activated when the door opened. And on that pedestal, sealed inside protective casing, was a leather-bound journal. I knew it immediately. My father's journal. I'd seen him write in it, late at night, at the kitchen table. He'd always closed it when I entered the room. "Just work notes," he'd say. I'd believed him. Now I understood. They weren't work notes. They were the truth. I approached the pedestal slowly. My footsteps echoed in the circular room. Each step felt significant, final. I reached out. My hand touched the glass casing. It was warm, surprisingly warm. Climate-controlled, preserved. I lifted the casing. It was heavier than expected. My arms strained. I set it aside carefully, and then I touched the journal. The leather was soft, worn. I could see where my father's hands had held it, the places where his fingers had worn the cover smooth. I opened it. The binding creaked softly, and there, on the first page, was his handwriting. To my daughter. My vision blurred. I had to blink several times to clear it. If you are reading this, then what I feared has come to pass. His handwriting was steady, precise, the way he always wrote. But I could feel the weight behind the words. You are not in danger because of anything you did. You are in danger because of who you are. I turned the page. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the journal. There is more to your identity than you know. I kept reading. You were never an accident, Alyssa. You were never a mistake. And you were never, no matter what they told you, what they made you believe, you were never property. Tears were falling now, landing on the page. I tried to wipe them away, but they kept coming. You were the first successful proof that human immunity can evolve naturally, not in a lab, not through genetic manipulation, but through natural human evolution. I had to stop reading. My vision was blurring. They did not create you. You were born with what they have spent decades, billions of dollars trying to manufacture. I looked up, trying to breathe. Gabriel was standing near the door, giving me space, but watching. I looked back down at the page. It is not what was done to you that makes you powerful, Alyssa. I left the tablet on the seat. I didn't need it anymore. Everything that mattered was either in my pocket or about to be in my hands. The air was cold, crisp. It smelled like pine and damp earth. Gabriel approached the bunker door and entered a code on a hidden keypad. There was a heavy mechanical sound, locks disengaging. The door groaned open, slowly, like something waking up. I stood at the threshold, looking into darkness, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that the person who walked into this bunker would not be the same person who walked out. I took a breath and stepped inside. Chapter 4. The Choice. It's what you already are. You are the future they fear, because you prove that humanity doesn't need them, doesn't need their programs, doesn't need their control. You are evidence that we can evolve on our own, and that terrifies them. I closed my eyes. My father hadn't just died to protect me. He'd died to protect what I represented. Not a weapon, not an asset, but hope. Proof that humanity could adapt, could survive, could evolve without manipulation. I turned to the last page that had writing. There was one final instruction. There is a decision only you can make. At the far end of this vault lies a terminal, a master control system your mother and I built before she died, before they took her from us. My breath caught. My mother. She died when I was 2. Cancer, they'd said. But now I wondered, had it really been cancer? Or had it been another stroke? On that terminal are 2 commands, the letter continued. One will give them what they've always wanted, your compliance, your surrender, your agreement to become what they designed you to be. The other will release every classified document tied to the Rowan Initiative, every name, every crime, every lie. It will make you a target, but it will also make you free. The choice is yours, my daughter. I cannot make it for you, but I trust you. Not as a subject, not as an asset, as a human being with free will. Whatever you choose, know that I love you, and I am proud of you. Dad. I stood there for a long time, holding the journal, feeling the weight of it, not the physical weight, the weight of everything it represented. Finally, I looked at Gabriel. "Where's the terminal?" I asked. My voice was steady now. He pointed to the far side of the room. I walked toward it, each step deliberate. The terminal was built into the wall, old but functional. A screen, a keyboard, and 2 buttons beneath protective glass, red and blue. Labels engraved beneath each. Acquisition protocol, revelation protocol. Acquisition, surrender, compliance. Revelation, exposure, freedom. I stood in front of the terminal. My hand hovered over the glass. If I chose the first button, I might survive. They might let me live. In captivity, in service to their program, but alive. If I chose the second button, I would become the enemy, hunted, targeted, marked for elimination. But the truth would be out there, and no one could bury it again. I thought about my father, poisoned in his own home, murdered because he tried to tell the truth. I thought about my mother, gone when I was too young to remember her. Had she known? Had she fought, too? I thought about every moment of my life, every doctor's appointment, every blood test, every time I stayed healthy when others got sick. I'd thought I was lucky. I'd thought I was ordinary. I'd been neither. I'd been watched, studied, controlled. My entire life had been an observation deck, and I'd never known. I pressed the blue button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the terminal chimed. Revelation protocol. A low hum filled the chamber. The terminal screen came to life. Data began scrolling, fast. Lines of code and file names streaming past. A progress bar appeared. Upsending to secure media channels. Distribution, global. Encrypted, yes. Traceable, yes. Time to completion, 3 minutes. The files were uploading. Everything my father had gathered, every crime, every name, every piece of evidence, flowing out into the world, to journalists, to watchdog organizations, to federal oversight committees, to everyone. Gabriel exhaled behind me. "It's done," he said. His voice was quiet, almost reverent. "You just changed the world." The words hung in the air. I stared at the screen, watching the progress bar fill. 75%, 80%, 85%, and then the alarm started. Breach detected. Red lights flashed along the corridor outside. The sound was deafening. A mechanical wail that echoed off concrete. They'd found us. They'd been tracking us, waiting for us to come here. And now that we'd activated the terminal, they knew exactly where we were. Gabriel grabbed my arm. "We have to go." he said. Now. I looked at the screen. 95%, 98%. Not yet, I said. Alyssa. 100%, upload complete. Distrogen successful. Files delivered 10,847. Recipients 3,421. The screen went dark. It was done. Gabriel pulled me toward the exit tunnel at the back of the vault. I grabbed my father's journal, held it tight against my chest. We ran. The alarms were still blaring, red lights strobing. The exit tunnel was narrow. We had to run single file. Our footsteps echoed. My breathing was ragged. Behind us, I heard new sounds. Doors opening, voices shouting, boots on concrete. They were inside the bunker. The tunnel angled upward. My legs burned. Gabriel was ahead of me, moving fast. And then we were out, bursting through a concealed exit into cold night air. I gasped, filled my lungs. In the distance, I heard helicopters, the thrum of rotors, getting closer. They'd been tracking us, waiting for us to surface. Searchlights began cutting through the trees. Gabriel grabbed my hand. This way. We ran through the forest. Branches whipped at my face. Roots tried to trip me, but I kept running. Behind us, the searchlights swept back and forth, hunting. We reached the SUV, dove inside. Gabriel gunned the engine and we tore down the dirt road. Branches scraped the sides of the vehicle. In the rearview mirror, I saw headlights, multiple vehicles. They were following. They're not going to let us go, I said. My chest was heaving, adrenaline making my hands shake. I know, Gabriel replied. His jaw was set, eyes focused. But we don't need to outrun them. We just need to get you somewhere public, somewhere visible. He turned sharply onto the main road, tires screeching. The data release triggered media alerts, he said. By now, reporters are scrambling to verify the files. News networks are seeing the uploads. He accelerated. The speedometer climbed. 60, 70, 80. If we can get you in front of cameras, he said, they can't disappear you. My heart was racing. We were heading back toward town, back toward civilization, back toward witnesses. But the agents were still behind us. Black sedans, no lights, just pursuit. And they were closing in. Gabriel, I said. My voice was steadier than I felt. Where are we going? He didn't answer immediately. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. My house. I stared at him. What? There's something else your father left with me, he said. Physical evidence, hard copies, backup files. He took another sharp turn. If the agents find those before we do, they can claim the digital files are forgeries. They can discredit everything you just released. My stomach dropped. Then we can't go there, I said. They'll be waiting. I know, Gabriel said. His expression was grim. But we don't have a choice. We pulled onto Mapleton Drive just as the sun was beginning to set. Golden light stretched across the street. Normal suburban homes, manicured lawns, kids' bikes in driveways. Gabriel's house sat at the end of the block. Modest, single family, small yard, detached garage. And parked in front of it were two unmarked black sedans. They're already here, I whispered. Gabriel parked 2 houses down, out of direct line of sight. He turned off the engine. For a moment, we just sat there, breathing. They're searching it, Gabriel said quietly. Through the windows, I could see shadows moving inside his house. Flashlights, figures going room to room, methodical, professional. Wait here, Gabriel said. No, I said immediately. I turned to face him. I'm coming with you. He looked at me, studied my face, then nodded. Stay close, he said. We got out of the SUV, moved quickly and quietly through the neighbor's backyard. The grass was wet, cold against my ankles. We cut through a gap in the fence line. I could smell someone's dinner cooking, hear a TV playing inside a nearby house. Normal life continuing. You were born with what they have spent decades, billions of dollars trying to manufacture. I looked up, trying to breathe. Gabriel was standing near the door, giving me space, but watching. I looked back down at the page. It is not what was done to you that makes you powerful, Alyssa. I left the tablet on the seat. I didn't need it anymore. Everything that mattered was either in my pocket or about to be in my hands. The air was cold, crisp. It smelled like pine and damp earth. Gabriel approached the bunker door and entered a code on a hidden keypad. There was a heavy mechanical sound, locks disengaging. The door groaned open, slowly, like something waking up. I stood at the threshold, looking into darkness, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that the person who walked into this bunker would not be the same person who walked out. I took a breath and stepped inside, while we crept through shadows. We reached the back of Gabriel's house. The back door was slightly ajar. They'd picked the lock, or kicked it in and set it back. Gabriel tested it. It swung open, silently. We slipped inside. The house was dim, evening light filtering through windows, casting everything in blue-gray. I could hear voices from the front rooms, low, controlled, and footsteps, drawers being opened, closed, objects being moved. They were searching systematically. Gabriel motioned for me to follow him. We moved down a hallway. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure they could hear it. Every floorboard creak sounded like a gunshot. We reached what looked like a home office. Gabriel moved to a bookshelf. His hands were steady, practiced. He pressed on a specific panel. Click. A small section of the wall swung open, revealing a hidden safe. He worked the combination quickly, his body blocking my view, but I heard it. Click, click, click. The safe opened. Inside was a single external hard drive, small, black, unremarkable. But I knew what it contained. Everything. This has backups of your father's original findings, Gabriel whispered. Testimony, lab results, photographic evidence, everything from before the program was classified. He grabbed it, turned toward me, and that's when we heard it. Footsteps in the hallway. Getting closer. Gabriel's eyes widened. "They're coming," he whispered. We had seconds, maybe less. Gabriel shoved the hard drive into my hands. "Take it," he said urgently. "Get out the back. I'll distract them." "No," I said. "We go together." "Alyssa!" But before either of us could move, the door opened. A man in a dark suit stood in the doorway. Tall, broad-shouldered, expression blank. His hand moved toward his jacket. "Don't move," he said. His voice was calm, almost bored. Gabriel stepped in front of me, positioning himself between me and the agent. "She's not going anywhere with you," he said. The agent's expression didn't change. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," he said. 2 more agents appeared behind him, blocking the doorway. 3 men, all armed, all between us and the exit. I clutched the hard drive. My father's journal was still pressed against my chest. "The data is already out," I said. My voice was steadier than I expected. "It's over." The lead agent tilted his head slightly, like he was considering something. "Not if we erase the source," he said. And then, deliberately, he reached out. Everything slowed down. There was a metal container on Gabriel's workbench, chemical solvent for electronics. I could smell it from here. Sharp, astringent. The agent's hand knocked it over. Not an accident, purposeful. The container tipped. Liquid spilled across the floor. Clear, fast spreading. Another agent pulled something from his pocket. A lighter. He flicked it. Flame appeared, and he dropped it. The chemicals ignited instantly. Whoomp! Flames erupted across the floor. Blue at first, then orange, then red, spreading faster than thought. Gabriel's workshop was lined with emergency prep supplies, fuel, accelerants, materials he'd stockpiled, all of it feeding the fire. "Get out!" Gabriel shouted. He grabbed my arm, pulled me toward the hallway. The agents backed away from the doorway as flames spread toward them. They retreated, moving calmly toward the front door, like they'd done this before. In the chaos, Gabriel pulled me through the smoke-filled hallway. We stumbled toward the back door. It was everywhere already. Thick, black, choking. My eyes burned. I couldn't see, couldn't breathe. Gabriel's hand was the only thing anchoring me. We burst out the back door, gasping, coughing. The cool evening air hit my lungs like ice. I doubled over, sucking in oxygen. But then Gabriel stopped. I looked up. "What? The files," he said. His face was illuminated by the growing flames behind us. "There are more files, physical copies, in the garage safe." "Gabriel, no!" But he was already moving, running back toward the house, toward the garage. "Stay here!" he shouted. "Gabriel!" I screamed his name, but he disappeared into the smoke. The fire was spreading. I could see it through the windows now. Flames climbing the walls, consuming everything. The roof was starting to catch. I stood on the lawn, clutching the hard drive, my father's journal, the only evidence left. And Gabriel was still inside. Seconds passed. 10, 20, 30. The fire was fully involved now. Windows started to shatter from the heat. Crack, crack, crack. And that's when I heard the sirens. Fire trucks, coming closer. Someone had called it in, a neighbor, someone who saw the smoke. The sirens grew louder and louder, and then Engine 47 turned onto Mapleton Drive. Chapter 5. The Witness. "That's when your crew arrived," Alyssa said, her voice breaking for the first time. The fire trucks pulled up. Men in gear jumped out, moving with purpose, with training. One of them approached me, tall, steady. His face was calm despite the chaos. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm Captain Mitchell. You need to move back from the structure." I didn't move. I couldn't. Behind him, the 3 men in dark suits were standing near their black sedan, watching. One of them stepped forward. "She's in federal custody," he said. "We'll take it from here." But Captain Mitchell stepped between us. "She's not going anywhere until my paramedics clear her," he said. His voice was firm, final. The agent's jaw tightened, but he didn't push it. Captain Mitchell turned back to me. His eyes were kind, steady. "Ma'am," he said again, softer this time. "Are you injured? Is anyone else inside?" I shook my head. My throat was raw from smoke. "No one's inside," I managed to say. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. Gabriel was in there. Or he had been. "They already got what they came for," I said. My voice sounded distant, not my own. Captain Mitchell looked at me carefully. "Who did?" I glanced at the agents. Then, back at the fire. Flames were coming through the roof now, orange against the darkening sky. "The people who wanted to erase me," I said. Captain Mitchell studied my face. He didn't look skeptical, didn't look dismissive. He looked like he believed me. "What's your name?" he asked. "Alyssa Rowan." "Alyssa, do you know how this fire started?" I looked down at the journal in my hands. The edges were charred, blackened, like I'd pulled it from flames. In a way, I had. "Yes," I said quietly. "I know exactly how it started." The lead agent stepped forward again, more forceful this time. "Captain Mitchell, we appreciate your concern, but Ms. Rowan is wanted in connection with a federal investigation. We need to take her into custody. Now." Captain Mitchell looked at him, then at me. I wasn't resisting, wasn't trying to run, but something in my eyes must have told him that if these men took me, he'd never see me again, and neither would anyone else.
"Give me 5 minutes," he said to the agent. "Let her give a statement about the fire, then she's yours." The agent hesitated, glanced at his partners, then nodded once. 5 minutes. Captain Mitchell turned back to me. "Talk to me," he said. "What happened here?"
I looked at the burning house, flames reflected in the windows of neighboring homes. People were coming out now, standing on their lawns, watching. I looked back at Captain Mitchell. "You want to know why I'm not afraid of dying in that fire, Captain Mitchell?" He nodded, waiting. "Because everything I thought I was already burned down this morning," I said. The words came easier now, like a confession. And by noon, I understood that my entire life was a lie. I took a breath. The smoke in my lungs made it hurt. "This morning started at 5:02 a.m., I said. "That's when my neighbor knocked on my door and told me not to go to work." Captain Mitchell was listening, really listening, not just waiting for his turn to talk, actually hearing me. "That's when this fire really started," I said. And then I told him everything. "That's when your crew arrived," I said, my voice breaking for the first time. The story was finished, all of it laid out between us on this lawn, with the fire raging behind me, evidence of everything I'd just said. "That's when I saw the flames come through the roof," I continued, "and I knew he wasn't coming out." Captain Mitchell, Dean, looked at me, really looked at me. Not with pity, not with disbelief, with understanding. "Gabriel went back inside?" he asked. I nodded. Tears were streaming down my face now. I hadn't realized I was crying until I felt them, hot against my smoke-stained cheeks. "He said there were more files," I whispered. "Physical copies in the garage safe. He went back for them." I looked at the house, fully involved now, flames visible through every window. "And he never came out." Dean turned toward the burning structure. A woman in firefighter gear was coordinating suppression efforts, strong, efficient, moving with authority. Dean caught her eye, made a signal. She jogged over. "Anyone inside?" she asked. Her voice was professional, clipped. "Possible victim," Dean said. "Male, last seen entering through rear of structure." Her expression hardened. She spoke into her radio immediately, calling for a secondary search team. Dean turned back to me. "What are you holding?" he asked. He gestured to my hands. I looked down. The metal keycard from the vault, my father's journal, and the external hard drive Gabriel had saved. "This is what my father died protecting," I said. My voice was hoarse. "This is what Gabriel died protecting." I held up the hard drive. Evidence of a government program that turned me into a lab experiment before I could even walk. Behind me, I heard footsteps. One of the agents was approaching again. "Captain Mitchell," he said. His voice was clipped, impatient. "The woman is in federal custody. We need to take her." Dean looked at him, then at me. I saw something shift in his expression, a decision being made. "She's a witness to an arson," he said. "She's not going anywhere until we process this scene." The agent's jaw tightened. "You're interfering with national security," he said. "And you're interfering with an active fire investigation," Dean replied. The two men stared at each other. The agent was taller, broader, but Dean didn't back down. The agent glanced at his partners. They were standing near their sedan, watching, waiting. Dean looked at me again. "Ma'am," he said, "did these men start this fire?" I met his eyes, and I nodded slowly. "They knocked over accelerant in Gabriel's workshop," I said, deliberately. "They wanted to destroy the evidence." I paused. "And they didn't care if we burned with it." Dean turned to the agent. Is that true? The agent's expression didn't change. Blank. Professional. I don't know what she's talking about, he said. We arrived after the fire started. But I could see it in his eyes. The lie. Dean saw it too. Lieutenant Williams, he called out. The woman in firefighter gear jogged back over. These individuals are now witnesses to a potential arson, Dean said. I need you to get statements from all three of them. Don't let them leave. The agent took a step forward. You don't have the authority. This is my scene, Dean said. His voice was firm, final. You want jurisdiction? Get a warrant. Until then, you're witnesses, and witnesses don't leave until we say so. For the first time, the agent's composure cracked. Just slightly. A muscle twitched in his jaw. He stepped back, pulled out his phone, started making a call. I watched him. His back was to me, but I could see his shoulders tense. Whoever he was calling, he wasn't happy. Dean looked at me. His expression was softer now. They'll never stop, I said quietly, the reality of it settling over me like weight. Even with the truth out there, they'll say I'm lying. They'll say I'm dangerous. Then let them try, Dean said. He reached into his pocket. But you're not doing this alone. And that's when I heard them. Different sirens this time. Not fire trucks, not police. Something else. News vans. I turned. 3 of them were pulling onto the street. Reporters jumping out before the vans had even fully stopped. Cameras already rolling. The data release, I whispered. It had triggered media alerts. Journalists were scrambling to verify the files. And now they were here, filming everything. The agent saw them too. His face went pale. He lowered his phone, because he understood what I understood, what Dean understood. They couldn't take me. Not on camera. Not with this many witnesses. The reporters rushed toward us, microphones extended, cameras pointing. Ma'am, are you a resident here? What happened? Do you know how the fire started? I looked at the cameras, then at Dean. I made a decision. Captain Mitchell, I said, can I borrow your radio? He handed it to me without hesitation. I walked toward the cameras, each step deliberate, the hard drive clutched in one hand, the journal in the other, the keycard in my pocket. Everything my father had died for, everything Gabriel had disappeared for. The reporters crowded closer. I took a breath, and I spoke. My name is Alyssa Rowan, I said. My voice was steady, clear, carrying across the street. I am Subject 7B of a classified government biogenetics program. The cameras didn't move. Every lens focused on me. For 33 years, I have been monitored, studied, and manipulated without my knowledge or consent. Behind me, I heard the agent say something sharp into his phone, but I kept talking. My father uncovered this program and was killed for trying to protect me. I held up the hard drive. And tonight, federal agents burned this house to destroy the evidence he left behind. The reporters were silent, captivated. I could see neighbors standing on their lawns, watching, witnessing. The files have been released to the public, I said. The truth is out there now. I looked directly into the closest camera. And I'm done hiding. My voice didn't waver. If you're watching this, and you've ever felt like your life wasn't your own, I want you to know you're not alone. I thought about everyone like me. Everyone who'd been used, studied, controlled. They want us to believe we're powerless, I said. But we're not. I held up the journal. My father's journal. This belonged to my father, I said. He died protecting me. I looked at the camera again. And I'm going to make sure his sacrifice wasn't for nothing. The street was silent, except for the crackling of the fire. The reporters stood frozen. Then one of them spoke. Ms. Rowan, can you tell us more about this program? Are you saying the government experimented on you? What evidence do you have? I opened my mouth to answer, but Dean's Lieutenant Williams approached. Captain, she said. She looked at me, then at Dean. We did a full search. Primary and secondary. She paused. No victim inside. The words hit me like electricity. What? I asked. She shook her head. No body. No sign of anyone. I stared at her, then at the burning house. He's not there? I whispered. No, ma'am. My legs almost gave out. Gabriel. He wasn't dead. He'd gotten out. Or he'd never gone back in the first place. He'd made them think he had, and then he'd disappeared, off the grid, into the shadows, safe. I felt a smile pull at my lips despite everything. He got out, I said, relief flooding through me. He knew how to disappear. Dean nodded, understanding in his eyes. I turned back to the reporters. They were still waiting, still filming. The evidence is in the files, I said. Everything you need to verify my story is being released as we speak. I held up the hard drive again. This contains backups, testimony, documentation, names. I looked at the agent. He was still on his phone, but he was watching me. You can't erase the truth anymore, I said. Not to the reporters, to him. His expression was unreadable, but he lowered his phone. And he got into his sedan. His partners followed. Without another word, they drove away, unable to take me, unable to silence me. Not with cameras rolling, not with witnesses everywhere. I stood on that lawn, surrounded by smoke and ash, the ruins of the house behind me, flames still consuming what was left. But I was still standing, and the truth was out. Dean approached me as the reporters continued to ask questions. Lieutenant Williams was keeping them at a respectful distance now, giving me space. What happens now? I asked Dean quietly. He looked at the reporters, at the neighbors still watching, at the cameras still rolling. Now, he said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a card. You tell your story. Everywhere. Until they can't hide anymore. He handed me the card. If you need a witness to what happened here today, he said, you call me. I took it. His fingers brushed mine for just a second. Thank you, Captain Mitchell, I said. Dean, he said. My name is Dean. I smiled, just a little. Thank you, Dean. The agents were gone. They'd had no choice. Too many witnesses, too many cameras. The truth was out there now, spreading through news networks, social media, everywhere. By morning, the world would know. Subject 7B wasn't just a file number anymore. I was a person who'd been turned into an experiment, and I was done being silent. As the fire crews continued their work, as the reporters filed their stories, as the neighbors slowly returned to their homes, I stood there, holding my father's journal, the last piece of him I had left. And I understood what he'd been trying to tell me all along. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't property. I was evidence. Evidence that humanity didn't need their programs, didn't need their control. Evidence that we could evolve on our own. And that was what terrified them most. I looked at the burning house one last time, watched the flames consume the place where Gabriel had lived, where he'd watched over me, protected me, and then disappeared to protect himself. The fire was destroying evidence, but it couldn't destroy the truth. Not anymore. Because the truth was out there now, in thousands of files, on thousands of screens, in the minds of millions of people, and no fire could burn that away. The street was silent except for the crackling of the fire. The reporters stood frozen. Then one of them spoke. Ms. Rowan, Can you tell us more about this program? Are you saying the government experimented on you? What evidence do you have? I opened my mouth to answer, but Dean's lieutenant, Williams, approached. Captain, she said. She looked at me, then at Dean. We did a full search, primary and secondary. She paused. No victim inside. The words hit me like electricity. What? I asked. She shook her head. No body. No sign of anyone. I stared at her, then at the burning house. He's not there? I whispered. No, ma'am. My legs almost gave out. Gabriel. He wasn't dead. He'd gotten out. Or he'd never gone back in the first place. He'd made them think he had, and then he'd disappeared. Off the grid. Into the shadows. Safe.
I'm Captain Dean Mitchell, Station 47. Stay safe out there.